What is up, YouTube? We are back for the NHL playoffs. We are going to sit here and cover every single series going into the second round. We're also going to cover the Tampa and Canadiens Game 7. We had a blast filming this, so I hope you guys enjoy. Let's get right into the video. Alright, Alex, it has been a while since we've done this. I know this year for the football season, we were very on and off. We would film once and then we'd be gone for a couple weeks. But the best time of year is going on right now, and it is the NHL playoffs. We're already pretty much through round one. Some amazing matchups have happened. Obviously, Tampa and Montreal are still in their series, going to Game 7. Vegas advanced, beating Utah in 6. The Minnesota Wild with a huge series win. A series win that they really needed. Their fans have been waiting for a long time, beating the Dallas Stars in 6, making it even bigger because that's a division matchup there. The Avalanche, the Kings were just no test for the Avalanche. That was a sweep. Then you got the Flyers for the first time in a while in the playoffs, beating the Penguins, almost blowing that series, but holding on and winning. And then the Sabres finally giving their fans a reason to be happy after a lot of misery. And then you got the Carolina Hurricanes, just not much to say. They just steamrolled the Senators. The Senators just stood absolutely no chance. I'd say actually the Kings looked better against the Avalanche than the Senators looked against the Hurricanes. So that basically sums up that series. But obviously going into the Game 7 matchup with the Lightning and the Canadiens and then round 2, what are your thoughts?
Well, it's been the Stanley Cup playoffs living up to the expectations, to the hype, to it being the best playoff tournament in all of pro sports. And I would say all of sports, period. Nothing beats the Stanley Cup playoffs. And once again, it's not disappointing. I mean, great games, great series. You mentioned the Tampa Bay Montreal series going to 7. This is really interesting, Jason, because for the first time, at least in our lifetime, the first time I've ever seen it, I've never seen the National Hockey League begin a round 2 series without all the round 1 matchups being done.
Yeah.
Because as we're taping this on Saturday, Carolina Philly begin round 2, but on Sunday, you have Tampa Montreal still going to round 1 in that Game 7 duel. So it's really interesting to see how that's happened because the NBA has done it for many years, and that's happened time and time again. And the way it's kind of being portrayed, the NBA is waiting for their first round series to end before they begin round 2 in some respect.
Yeah.
So it's really weird to see the opposite this year around, but it is what it is.
I actually like it actually. Just get right to it.
I do like it as well. I think they should have been doing that for years, but it's something where it's a really good thing. I like that you have the Hurricanes Flyers starting, and then you'll finish, that Game 7 in round 1 between the Lightning and the Hurricanes, or rather the Canadiens, and it's something where it's really awesome to see that. But
and
regardless,
the one thing before you get into your thing, going right into it, a couple years ago, what's so good about this, and obviously I'm by no means rooting for the Flyers or Hurricanes, but a couple years ago, the year Vegas won the Cup, the Hurricanes were steamrolling teams and flying, and then they had a week gap off because of waiting, and they completely cooled down. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think they only won one game against Florida.
Well, the thing is that when Vegas won in 2023, Florida swept them.
Yeah.
It was 2025 where they met again. Carolina was down 3-1, or rather 3-0, and then they were down 3-1, and then they lost in 5. Because if you remember last year, Carolina, before they won that Game 4, they lost like 15 straight conference final games in the 4 times they've been there in the 21st century. So, I mean, it was something ridiculous like that. So, it really is something, to see how that plays out. Carolina, keep in mind, they've not played in exactly a week. I think their first game is going to be exactly a week after they beat Ottawa in game number 4. So, it's interesting to see how that plays out. But for the Tampa-Montreal series, it's going to be something that really will be remembered one way or the other. whoever wins, whoever loses. It's been a great series, been back and forth, a lot different than that 2021 final
Yeah.
where Tampa just walked all over Montreal 5 years ago to win what was at the time a second straight Stanley Cup title. But you look at Tampa and Montreal and how back and forth the teams have been. Both teams are loaded with offensive star power. Both teams have good defenders. You have, the great Andrei Vasilevsky for Tampa Bay. Montreal's goalie has really rised up to the occasion as well. So it's no surprise that this is a 7-game series, knowing how tight the division standings were between these two at the end of the regular season. Tampa Bay obviously having the home ice and Game 7 in Tampa on Sunday. But the fact that you have Montreal winning Game 5, you have Montreal winning a handful of overtime games, Tampa Bay won in overtime in Game 6 and a 1-0 barn burner. It's going to be an excellent Game 7. Whoever loses will be very disappointed.
Yeah.
And honestly, I mean, yes, you can say Tampa Bay is still a legit contender. Yes, you can say Montreal is climbing up the ranks and making their case known in this season for many more years to come. But I will say this seriously when I say this. Whoever loses this Game 7 will be denied of a chance not only just to win a Stanley Cup, but really one of the teams that really has a good chance of winning the Stanley Cup.
Yep.
Because you look at a team like the Dallas Stars, who were second or third in the West, second or third in the entire National Hockey League, and the Wild beat them in 6, and they knocked them out in the first round. So for a team like the Dallas Stars, who are a legit contender, one of the best teams entering the playoffs with the best chances to win it, they're out in round 1. I'm not comparing Tampa Bay to Dallas or Montreal to Dallas, but one of these two teams in the Habs or Bolts is going to be like that Dallas team that has a really good chance entering the playoffs of making a run, and they get stopped in round 1.
Yeah. No, 100%. I completely agree. One thing I will say is with the trend of the series, how it would be so fitting. I would not be surprised if Game 7 ends in overtime.
Oh, of course not. And I mean, it's something where it would just put the icing on the cake of what an intense series it's been. And honestly, I mentioned Dallas, Minnesota. If you look at Dallas, Minnesota in the West and Tampa, Montreal in the East, depending on what happens in Game 7, one way or another, I think it's fair to say those two series by itself have been the two best series so far in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Vegas, Utah makes a case too. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Vegas, Utah had a heck of a series. Couple thrilling overtime games. Vegas blew a 3-0 lead. They had to come back and win an overtime in one of those contests. So I don't say that Utah-Vegas was a Debbie Downer. It was a good series.
No, it was definitely third behind those two, obviously.
Yeah, but for someone who watched every single game of the Wild and Star series, for someone who lives in Minnesota, who has their radio station as a radio affiliate of the Minnesota Wild, I heard every game, I watched every game. And that, for my money, regardless of what happens in Game 7 in Tampa, that Minnesota-Dallas series has been the best so far in the playoffs. I will fight tooth and nail to say that. But I will also say that this Tampa-Montreal series going to 7 is just as fitting as how intense it's been with Minnesota and Dallas, with how intense it's been with Tampa Bay and Montreal. So we'll see what happens in Game 7. Should be a great game. The winner of that one gets Buffalo. The Sabres have had a remarkable season, finally getting into the playoffs for the first time since 2011. And with them beating Boston in 6, first time they've won a playoff series in 19 years. So it's cool to see Buffalo make that run. Cool to see the Flyers win that series over Pittsburgh. Carolina's Carolina, okay, whatever, but Carolina takes on the Flyers. I mean, it's cool to see new teams in a same sense.
It's very different. Yeah, I want to say half the teams in the East were not in the playoffs last year, is what I read. Because actually, that's 100% the case, because you got the Flyers, you had the Penguins, the Sabres, and the Bruins. None of them were in last year. Obviously, in the West, you added the Mammoth and you added the Ducks. 6 of the 16 teams in the postseason this year were brand new in there, which is very, very nice to see. You don't get the usual Toronto in the playoffs who is going to lose in round 1. Just an automatic waste of a playoff spot, because they're going up 3-1 and then they're going to lose 3 straight games.
Right. Right. I mean, no, it's been fun to see teams like Philadelphia, a young
Yeah,
but still a
yeah,
gritty, hard-nosed, smash mouth team.
yeah,
The Flyers are the Flyers. That's never going to change regardless of that. But it's cool to see them make a run and be here in round two. Buffalo, an amazing story with what they accomplished over
yeah,
Boston. You mentioned the Bruins getting back to the playoffs. You mentioned Pittsburgh getting back to the
yeah.
playoffs. Sidney Crosby nearing 40, still playing like he's
Yeah, and the one
27,
thing about the
28.
Penguins, I'm not a Penguins fan. I'm not the biggest Crosby fan, but at this stage of his career, it is nice to see Crosby getting into the playoffs. And to be honest,
Yeah,
I
it
do
is.
hope he's in there the final couple of years of his career. I feel like honestly, the playoffs feel so much bigger when Sidney Crosby's in the playoffs.
Absolutely, and it's even better when he loses like he just lost in round one. So no, I agree with you. I'm not a fan of the Penguins. I'm not a fan of Crosby. I can't stand Crosby, to be honest with
Yeah,
you. But he is such a great ambassador for the game, whether you like him or not. He's a three-time Stanley Cup champ for a reason, one of the best players of our lifetime for
yeah,
a reason. And for a guy who's nearing 40, he's not slowing down. He's putting up great numbers. Had a heck of a year with Pittsburgh to get them in the playoffs to begin with. I mean, honestly, I hate to say this, but I wish Sid the Kid all the best at the same time because I don't want him to win a cup, but to see him in the playoffs and still bring that old school kind of feel of the 2000s and 2010s to keep that still alive in some
yeah.
respect is awesome to see, especially from a guy like Sidney Crosby. So that's cool to say and see, but at the same time, Sidney, make the playoffs, just don't win a round. That's all I ask. But but
Exactly.
but no, I mean, in all seriousness, it's cool to see teams like the Flyers and Sabres here making a run, winning a first round series. It's cool to see Anaheim, a team that was a young team for years towards the bottom of the standings in the West and the entire league. They win a series, they knock off Connor McDavid and company, and that
Yeah,
brings more questions about McDavid's future with the
yeah.
Oilers, obviously, with that. Um, you see the way Utah was able to give Vegas a fight. That was a heck of a fight. And honestly, I mean, as a Vegas fan, you'll probably be the first to say this. That was not an easy series for
Not
the
at all.
VGK at all. It
No.
was a tough, hard-nosed series, and Utah gave them everything. Now, they were down 2-1 Vegas. They win 3 in a row. They come back and win in 6 games altogether. And,
Yeah.
it's something where the Vegas Golden Knights, it's an amazing win for them. They move on. They're able to push forward. But if they face a Utah team like that again next year in the playoffs or many
Oh,
years to
totally
come,
different
they
story.
really have to be on their A game even further. I mean, it's one thing to, blow a game and come back. But if that happens in the future, there's no guarantee that's going to happen against a Utah team that built experience.
Oh, 100%. And to be honest, they just got valuable experience. And honestly, for a Utah team, they are going to be a dangerous team for a while.
Yeah.
They were a team where maybe at the beginning of the year you thought maybe there was a chance they'd make the playoffs, but there was certainly no guarantee.
Yep.
To be honest, at the start of the year, they were good, obviously, but the Blackhawks even looked good at the start of the year. A couple of those teams in that division looked good, so I
Yep.
really did not think there was any guarantee that they'd make the playoffs. And they put really really hard fight against Vegas. So much respect to that team. And the one thing that they even were discussing last night on the game, all their guys are locked up long term.
Yep.
They got
Yeah.
Smarts, they got all Cooley, Gunther. All these guys are locked up long term, and
Yeah.
they are
I
going to
mean,
be a good team for years.
they have a great depth piece forward wise. Clayton Keller, their superstar, of course. I mean, they have just been so insane to watch. And actually, a guy who I got to interview when he brought the Stanley Cup to St. Cloud, Minnesota, which is about 45 minutes from where I live, I got to meet Nate Schmidt and I got to interview him. And Nate Schmidt is a guy who is just a rock solid
Yeah.
veteran on that Utah team
He was
who
a
has
Golden Knight.
the
Remember,
experience.
Nate Schmidt was a
Yeah,
Golden Knight at one point.
he was a Golden Knight, lost in the finals with Vegas, went to Florida in 25, won the finals last year with the Panthers in 2025. So you bring a guy like that into their locker room too, and that is a big reason why Utah went as far as they did, and they gave Vegas a heck of a series. So that's that. And then, of course, the matchup I'm looking at a lot for round two is Minnesota, Colorado. That's going to be an
100%.
amazing, amazing series. I'm so looking forward to it. I mentioned before how I watched every single game in the first round between the Wild and Stars. And in game one, the Wild just punched Dallas right in the mouth. I was
Yeah.
surprised to see a 6-1 game like that, but they played great. I mean, Boldy had a huge game, 2 goals. Joel Eriksson had 2 goals in a power play. In that first game, Jason,
Yeah.
you had 5 different goal scorers. scorers, and you also had 5 guys with 2 points or more. That was in the 6-1 win over Dallas in game 1. And then Dallas won 2 in a row, and Dallas's power play was hot, exceptional, electric, and the Wild penalty kill was not doing well. The Wild power play itself was struggling. But being down 2-1 on home ice in game 4, Wild lead, then they trail,
And,
then Dallas pulls ahead. It's something where the Minnesota Wild stayed with it. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm watching game 4, and they're down with 5 minutes or so left in the third, and I thought that Dallas was going to win and take a 3-1
I was
lead.
about to say, as somebody who's living in Minnesota and covers Minnesota, this is one thing I haven't talked to you about. I'm sure after they went down 2-1 and they were down with a couple minutes to go in game 4, I guarantee, if I had to guess, I'm sure all Minnesota fans out there were like, here we go again.
Oh, no, for sure. And honestly, I mean, one of my colleagues went to the game 4 itself, and you can tell it was very nervous like in there. You can tell the fans were on edge. They were holding on to their seats. They were very unsure about what's going to happen. And honestly, I would say the whole series it was like that at times, especially when they were losing in game 2 or game 3, and they lost in double overtime, especially in game number 3. So the way that the Wild were able to persevere was exceptional. And then, like I said, with about 5-ish minutes left in the third, big man Marcus Foligno, the Moose they call him here, he gets the game tying goal, and then it goes to overtime. Dallas is peppering Jesper Wallstad. He's making save after save. The Wild are peppering Jake Ottinger. He's making save after save. I'm looking at this, and I'm like, okay, Dallas has so many chances. I think they're going to win. And then I'm looking at the second half of overtime. The Wild are just getting chance after chance. They got a good chance here. They're really putting it on Ottinger. And then with about 28 seconds left or so in the first overtime period, Matt Boldy comes up in the clutch with that tip to score the winning goal and tie it at 2-2. Matt Boldy this season has developed himself into a superstar. And this playoff so far, he is furthering that. Matt Boldy had 6 goals in that series against Dallas. Team leading, mind you, 6 goals against Dallas. And the Wild had 10 different guys with at least 1 goal against Dallas in that series.
That's incredible. And
a lot of those goals, a majority of those goals, were 5-on-5 play. And that was the difference in the series. Minnesota's 5-on-5 was the difference. Dallas's power play was hot. But from game 3, like the later stages of game 3, to the second period of game 6, Dallas did not score an even strength goal.
Which is, you're just not going to win a playoff series like that. You can't win a playoff series being power play merchants.
No, exactly. And that game 4 turned the entire story. Game 5, I watched the whole game 5, and the Wild from the start were in front. They were getting pucks to the net. They were getting chance after chance. Matt Zuccarello came back from injury. He scores the first goal of the game. It was a 1-1 game. Matt Boldy, who else but Matt Boldy, scores a eventually game-winning goal in the second period on the power play. The Wild win 4-2. And then game 6 was unbelievable. I was actually speaking with Alex Stalock, who's a former goalie in the NHL and a former player for the Wild, who's actually from St. Paul, Minnesota, who played for the Wild. He's from the Twin Cities. And I was speaking with Alex Stalock on Friday after the Wild won Thursday night. He was there for game 6. I mean, awesome. It was an exceptional night. It was an exceptional scene. It was beyond emotional. And, he was talking to me about Boldy, especially in the defense, and just these different key veterans that the Wild brought in, like a Vladdy Tarasenko and a Nick Foligno and a Michael McCarron and guys like that, and the way they've been able to establish themselves so well and so quickly into this lineup. It's been so fun to watch the Wild this playoff. It's been so fun to see. And it's something where game 6 was the ultimate pinnacle. And look, this team brought in Quinn Hughes for a reason. Quinn Hughes is unbelievable. He's playing out of his mind.
I'd actually genuinely say this may have been the best trade deadline year for the Wild in probably ever. They killed it this year with their trade deadlines.
That might be, yes. I agree with you, and I've been saying this all year. The trade for Quinn Hughes is the trade of the year without question. It's the trade of the year without question.
Well, dude, and the crazy thing is, in that game, the game 6, how smart, dude! In the moment, he decided he intentionally banked that off the Dallas player's skate into the goal. I mean, doing that in the heat of the moment of a game is incredible.
And again, that is the IQ and genius of Quinn Hughes. He scores the first goal of the game. He sets the tone. Dallas pulls ahead 2-1. Vladdy Tarasenko scores his 50th career playoff goal 50 seconds later after Dallas made it 2-1.
Not to mention Vladimir, not to forget him. This might be the best Tarasenko has looked in a couple years.
Absolutely. And I will expand on that in 1 second. But Quinn Hughes has been everything the Wild have asked for.
Yes.
He's given that and then some. He's been unbelievable for the Wild. And in Game 6, he scores that go-ahead goal that you referenced in the third. He was saying post-game he was looking for Ryan Hartman to get a stick on it. No, he throws it towards the net.
I don't know. I'm going to be honest. I don't buy that one. That looked intentional to me.
That's fair. I mean, regardless of how you view it one way or another, it's a very impressive play.
Seems like a guy not trying to give himself too much credit.
That's fair. That's a fair assessment. But no, it's something where, no, he played great. That goal was huge. And then Matt Boldy with 2 empty netters seals the deal. The Wild win their first playoff series in 11 years when they beat Dallas. And let's not forget, the Wild played the Stars in the playoffs in 2016 and 2023. Dallas won in 16 and 23 in 6 games. Third time's the charm. Wild win in 6. They win Game 6 on their home ice, and there were fans in the stands that were crying. That's how emotional this series win has been for Minnesota fans.
Yeah.
That's how important, how spectacular, how much it means to Wild fans here.
Yeah, and
that's how big it is.
The one thing for the Wild, is, well, obviously you got Kaprizov, Boldy, Quinn Hughes.
Mm-hmm.
If you continue year after year of not going anywhere in the playoffs, eventually you're going to end up in that Edmonton category of something needs to change eventually. And, I'd say you got the Wild were probably 1 or 2 playoffs series losses away from that point.
Oh, absolutely they were. Yeah. And look, the thing is that, I mean, this year had to be a year where they at least get past the first round. Yeah. And to begin the season, the Wild had a horrific October. They lost 3 of their first 12, or they lost 9 of their first 12.
I remember talking to you on the phone about how awful they looked at the start of the season.
It was bad. Yeah. No, it was bad. They had lost 9 of their first 12, and folks were even questioning whether John Hines stays. Yeah. Well, they keep Hines. Wallstad gets the opportunities. He's been insane. He's been unbelievable this year. And going with him over Gus has been the right move. And I'm glad they did that because in Game 1 he played great. He's been awesome all series. And Alex Stalock told me this on Friday. Jake Ottinger was outdueled by Jesper Wallstad. Yeah. Jesper Wallstad outdueled Jake Ottinger. So Alex Stalock is 1,001% right on that. I agree with him completely. And it's something where, the Wilds have been able to rebrand themselves and put them in this spot where Edmonton's gotten to the finals, but they can't get across the finish line. The Wild make a big move, a move that, many people are like, oh, is this risky? Is this right? Because you trade Marco Rossi, you trade Zeev Buium, you trade a couple of guys that were, future players for the team that were very good prospects and good players starting in their careers with the Wild. You trade a first-round draft pick as well, and you say, okay, is this going to work? Well, heck yes, it has. It's been unbelievable. So, and, to go back to Tarasenko briefly, look, I mean, Tarasenko has been unbelievable with this team. Tarasenko's a guy last year who had 11 goals in 80 games with the Red Wings. Yeah. It was a horrific year. It was the worst year of his career. He goes to Minnesota. He knows Kirill. He knows Trenyan. They're both Russians. Tarasenko is a Russian. And the way that Vladdy Tarasenko is able to fit into this locker room, the playoff experience he has, winning 2 Stanley Cups with St. Louis and Florida, the way he's able to have a 20-goal season in the regular season, he has some huge goals throughout the playoffs, and he scores that huge Game 6 goal to tie the game before Hughes scored the winner in the third period. Vladdy Tarasenko has been a remarkable veteran piece to bring in, a guy who has that Stanley Cup experience the Wild need, and again, they win that first series against Dallas. This series against Colorado is going to be very good. And honestly, yes, Colorado might be the favorites. Colorado's the best team in the league. Colorado won the President's Trophy. They have home ice throughout the playoffs, whatever. If you're going to really look at it series by series for the Wild, this series against Colorado is a little similar to Dallas entering at least. Because both teams have strong depth offensively. Both teams have veteran defenders who are exceptional. Both teams have good goalies who are right in the hot hand. You have Jesper Volstad for the Wild, and then for the Avalanche, Scott Wedgwood, who's having a career-defining year, a guy who's been a backup for the most of his career, wins 30 games in the regular season for the Avalanche, and he helps them get, sweep the Kings in round one. And the thing for Colorado is that they haven't played in exactly a week. Their first game is going to be Sunday when they host the Wild. They last played last Sunday against the Kings when they swept them in Los Angeles. So, we'll see how that plays out too. But I will say that, the Wilds have had a remarkable run here. And whether they win this series against Colorado or not, it's been a winning season, the fact that they got past the first round itself. If they get past Colorado, they make the final, heck, they win the Stanley Cup, it's all said and done beautiful. But if they don't win this series, for argument's sake, let's say Colorado takes care of business in 5 or 6 or whatever, right? Let's say Colorado wins this series. Yes, it's a tough series loss, but there's a lot of progress made. There's a lot to take away from this season for many more years to come, regardless of what happens against Colorado.
100%. And you know what? I wouldn't count the Wild out because you know what? Towards the end of the season, Colorado started to look a little vulnerable. They really did. And to be honest, the other thing is, we all know, for some reason, there's the President's Trophy cares. At some point, something that the Avalanche could go. They could go. But, that is going to be a fun, electric series. Like I said, I do give the slight edge to the Avalanche, but as a Vegas fan, if we beat the Ducks, I really hope you guys win. I do not want to play the Avs.
Sure.
But gonna be a fun series. I do want to move in though to the Vegas series because we got a very fun matchup. Obviously, Vegas just beating Utah, and the Ducks with an impressive series victory against the Oilers. The one thing for Vegas that does help them in this series is the Ducks are very similar to Utah. They're a young, fast-paced team. Not a lot of playoff experience outside of a couple of veterans they added, like Jacob Trouba, Gudis, and Kreider. The real difference is they have a little more size up front. They're a little more physical than Utah. But they are also a very bad defensive team, the Ducks. Dostal is a very good goalie, but the defense is rough. I'm curious what you think on this series. For me, and I'm not trying to just be biased as a Vegas fan, but I do give the slight edge to Vegas here.
I do too. I mean, I think the real big difference is going to be whether or not Vegas can really attack that up and down defensive core. That's going to be the difference at the end of the day. And you look at this, team for the Vegas Golden Knights, they make the coaching change, they fire Cassidy, they bring in Torts, and you were telling me that the VGK went 7-0-1 to finish the regular season with John Tortorella behind the bench, and now Torts is, leading this team to the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs after winning round 1. So for the Vegas Golden Knights, I think a lot of it is going to be that it's their series to lose. At the same time, can they capitalize on what are their successes? Can they further build off of that? At the same time, you can't afford to blow a 3-0 lead to a team like Anaheim. You can't afford
100%.
to be in a spot like that. It's one thing to do it against Utah and come back. But if you do it again, especially in the second round against a more veteran team in Anaheim, like you said, kind of similar with Utah, but Anaheim has more developed veterans, I would think, on their roster. You look at that, and that could be a difference here against an Anaheim team that's really sneaky, that's really strong, that just took out Connor McDavid and company. They're a team where, they got past the Oilers for a reason, whether or not McDavid was fully healthy or not, whether or not Draisaitl was fully healthy or not. Edmonton had a lot more experience than Anaheim when you look at the roster. So it's something where the Vegas Golden Knights cannot underestimate the Anaheim Ducks. And something else I'll say, the Vegas Golden Knights have to watch out for Radko Gudas. Yes. And I say that seriously because he is a dirty player. He has a history of incidents.
I'm actually sick of Gudas. I'm going to be honest.
I've been tired of Radko Gudas for years. He is a disgusting, dirty player. In a span of 2 months, he goes after Sidney Crosby in the Olympics, almost blows his knee out. And then he blows out Matthews' knee intentionally. Yeah. Matthews done for the season. Toronto was going nowhere. That's not the point. Gudas is a guy who intentionally targeted their star player and ended his season.
Yeah,
so
Mark
for a guy like
stay away.
Look, a guy like Jack Eichel, a guy like Mitch Marner, they got to watch out for Gudas. At the same time, you got to have your rough, tough enforcers for the Golden Knights. A
Mm,
guy like McNabb or one of those guys on defense
yeah.
really stick it to Gudis.
Oh, rock him with a head if you can. A guy
Yeah.
like Brady McNabb, just crush him with the head. And you know what? And I'll go into this briefly. I've always said this. The NHL, the NBA and NFL, especially the NBA, do a good job with it. The NHL fines for dirty plays are pathetic. These
Yeah.
guys get charged $2,000, sometimes $5,000. They make that back in like a couple weeks. I mean, they not. I mean, not
Couple
even. Not
weeks,
no no.
probably
Sorry,
like
probably in a week. It's pathetic. Like, what are they going to learn from that?
nothing.
Seriously.
Oh, I know.
So they need to do a better job. And we all talked about it growing up. The guy we hated was Brad Marchand, and you know what? Brad Marchand's cleaned himself up out there on the ice. He doesn't do that crap anymore. Gudis has now become one of those guys.
Oh,
And
yeah.
to be honest, even a guy like Tom Wilson has cleaned himself up a little bit more. But Rafael Gudis, insufferable. And I really do hope one of the big Vegas defensemen like McNabb, or honestly even Theodore, or honestly
Mhm.
Jeremy Lazan, who is a guy who could just crush somebody, just lays a big hit on Rafael Gudis.
Well, again, Vegas has to set the tone early.
Yeah.
And a way they set the tone is by telling Gudis straight up, this ain't going to fly.
Yeah.
You ain't going to get away with stuff like this. If you try to target our star players, we're coming after you. That's the tone they have to set in light of the general tone of being the better team, more experienced, score first, defend well, etc.
100%. If Vegas sets the tone early and they take control and they get these leads early, because the one thing Vegas has struggled with this year is getting the lead. A lot of our games have came down to the third period, and us coming back. But when we do take the lead, we take total control of the game. It is so hard for our opponents to get back into the games. And to be honest, with that weak defense that Anaheim has, if we take early control, it is going to be very, very hard for them. So that's why we need to really make an impact early. Try to throw out a couple big hits early. Against a team that's a little more physical than Utah, and try to get a quick goal in the first 10 minutes of the game. If maybe even sooner. Dostal's a good goalie as well, but he does not have much defensive help. So, in this scenario, I do think Vegas wins. I personally do think we get a, Avalanche versus Vegas Western Conference Finals. Hopefully, I'm wrong, and it's Vegas, Minnesota. I really enjoy that a little bit more. I'm kind of over the Avalanche and Nathan McKinnon as well. But no matter what, the rest of the West is going to be a lot of fun with those 4 teams.
Yes.
The one thing I do want to ask you, we have 5 minutes left. We might restart after and go into a few more things. But in the 5 minutes, I am curious because we talked about the Game 7, but what's your prediction for Game 7? Which team takes Game 7 of that Lightning Canadian series?
I mean, you can go so back and forth with this. I'm thinking, well, Tampa, wait, Montreal, wait, Tampa, I'm going so back and forth. I don't know, honestly. But to give me an answer, Montreal has been the better team in more clutch moments, in more series-defining moments. And John Cooper's a great coach. He's been excellent. He's won 2 Stanley Cups for a reason. The way that Marty St. Louis has been able to build this Montreal team as the head coach of the team has been striking, and it's been very impressive. And Tampa Bay has been a team that hasn't been able to get out of the first round sometimes in a couple of years. They've been able to win some series in the first round. There are times where they lose in the first round, obviously. Last year, they lost to Florida in the first round. For the Tampa Bay Lightning, this is a huge game.
Oh, 100%.
This is a huge statement that they need to make. If they lose this series, I think it would actually be 4 years in a row they would lose in the first round.
I believe you are correct. Yeah, you go from...
If they lose on Sunday, I think they would not make it out of the first round for 4 straight years at least.
Which is a huge deal because that means you go from winning back-to-back cups to losing 4 straight first rounds.
Not just that. I mean, you win back-to-back cups. You make the finals for 3 straight years
Yeah.
if you include 2022 and they lost to Colorado.
You're right. I
So
forgot about that one.
what's being said then is that the last time you won a series was when you made the Stanley Cup in 2022.
Yeah.
You haven't won a first-round series since. You lost in 23 to Toronto. You lost in 24 and 25 to Florida. Yes, that's the case now that I think about it. And if you lose to a young Montreal team on the rise, I'm not saying that's going to be the end of the John Cooper era, but it could bring up a lot of questions.
100%.
It really could. And look,
we know Tampa's went through these talks before about the John Cooper era because,
yes, they have.
To be honest, if they didn't win that cup that year, I think he was gone if they didn't win that first cup.
Well, yeah. I mean, honestly, I thought the same thing. If they didn't win in the bubble, John Cooper would not be the coach today. He would have been fired after that loss, whenever it would have been. But winning those 2 cups has made him a completely different coach. He's a great coach to begin with. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. But those 2 cups made the difference. But you're looking at a situation now where if this Montreal team up on the rise, if they beat them in Tampa, we'll see what happens. But at the end of the day, Jason, Montreal's had a lot of more the momentum. They've had the swings, the big swings in their favor. Yes, Tampa just forced a Game 7, but when you have games where Montreal's taking commanding leads, Montreal's winning in overtime, Montreal's setting the tone, they've been in charge.
100%.
And to be honest with you, I think Montreal's going to win this game. I think Montreal's going to win 7. At the same time, if you look at the rest of the field, there's only one Canadian team left.
Yep.
And that is the Montreal Canadiens. And if they can beat Tampa, they keep that going.
Yep.
And like we've been saying many years, Canada has not won a Stanley Cup since 1993. The last team to win the Stanley Cup from Canada, the Montreal Canadiens, when they beat the LA Kings, Wayne Gretzky and company back in 1993. So that's also on the line still. There's many other things on the line. Cole Caulfield has become one of the best young stars in this game. He's had an exceptional year. And I think this is a career-defining series for a lot of these Montreal players.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's going to make or break their whole careers, but if they win this Game 7 and they get past a juggernaut like Tampa Bay, it says a lot about what they can accomplish and how this was the start of it.
100%. And, we have a minute left before we actually do have to restart, but one thing I do want to touch on, the one thing that has really hurt Tampa this year, and I know he's an aging player, but the health of Victor Hedman this year has really hurt Tampa. He's probably had 3 stints where he's been out of the lineup. And, man, as much as Darren Radish has stepped up and been great, no Hedman has been a huge loss for them. And if they manage to get past the Canadiens in Game 7, they really got to hope they get Hedman back for round 2, because that series with Buffalo is going to be a tough one.
It sure will be. And the thing is, Rasmus Dahlin's a guy who kind of reminds you of Victor Hedman in some respect.
Yeah, 100%. A little smaller than Hedman, but he does remind me of Hedman a lot too. So moving on, Alex, from the Tampa series, I want to go a little more into what's going on in the East. We got obviously the Hurricanes and Flyers. We all know the Flyers are probably the biggest underdog matchup, of what's the entire postseason. I guarantee you, no matter what matchup we get, nobody will be favored more than the Hurricanes against the Flyers. But,
absolutely.
The one thing is the Hurricanes are another team that looks great, and then they always have that one series that just surprises you where they really don't look like themselves. Usually that's the conference finals, but, a young, physical, up-and-coming Flyers team, you don't really know what to expect yet. So who knows if it could be this series? What are your thoughts going into this series?
Well, look, I mean, it's something where Philadelphia is still going to surprise people. I'm not saying they're going to win the series just like that if they do win it, but at the same time, it's something where Carolina might be taken off guard a little bit right away, because it seems to be the same story with the Hurricanes. Either, like you said, they make the conference finals, they get blown out, or by the second round, they look a little sluggish or slow, and they'll lose a series, or they'll just get by the skin of their teeth in a second round series. The problem is, Jason, is that in the first round, And once again, they just dominate too quickly.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's what it is. I mean, Ottawa this year, whoever else in the past, they just dominate that first round so quickly. Boom, 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 boom. Then they're off for a week, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Then they got to wait for everybody else to get
Yeah.
their series done. In previous years, this year it's different, obviously, but in the sense of that, okay, their opponent, they got to wait for their opponent. And sometimes they wait 5, 6, 7,
Yeah.
8, 9, 10 days to find out
And
who they're
it's just
playing
not
next round.
ideal. Yeah.
You know, so it's something where they're waiting a week, almost 2 full weeks, to find out who they're going to play the next round.
Yep.
And like in 2023, when Florida was making that remarkable run to the finals before losing to Vegas, Carolina had to wait, I think they had to wait, probably 5, 6, 7 days, something like that. You know? And then they got swept.
Yeah, they just never recovered from those days off. Yeah.
And there are a lot of different scenarios for Carolina like that. Now, they're a good team. They're well-structured. Logan Stankoven's been a remarkable piece for them. I mean, that trade has worked out so well for both sides, whether it be Dallas getting Rantanen or the Hurricanes getting Stankoven. Stankoven has been a remarkable franchise guy that has developed well, that has played well, that's been clutch at such a young age, and he's just getting better with time. 100%. So they have their guys. They have their loaded guys on offense and defense. Nikolai Ehlers has been a great addition. He's been a remarkable offensive unit for this team. They've got a couple of younger defensemen who are stepping up in some big roles. Freddie Anderson, when healthy, looks like himself.
Yeah, when healthy, yes.
Well, yeah, you know, when healthy. I mean, seriously, because the man has been so injury prone throughout his career. But the thing is that he looked good against Ottawa in that first round. But at the same time, you know, he's been waiting a while to play whoever the opponent is. Now we know it's the Flyers. For Freddie Anderson, he's a guy where if he gets too much of that rest, like we've been seeing in previous years, he'll start to struggle. He'll start to be rusty. He'll start to make mistakes. He's prone to mistakes in situations like that.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's something where Carolina is the favorite. Yes, there's no question about it. But the Flyers come in a little more hungry, a little more not motivated, but they've got some more juice coming into this series. And look, Carolina's motivated too, don't get me wrong. But if you look at the way that Philadelphia fought with Pittsburgh, they were up 3-0. They lose games 4 and 5. You're wondering, oh my goodness, could the Flyers blow a 3-0 lead maybe? They win game 6, 1-0 in overtime, like how Tampa won game 6 to force game 7 Sunday. You know, there's just so much that is at stake here. There's so much going on where you look at the way that Philadelphia comes into this series, they're the more not experienced team when it comes to playoff experience or what have you, but they're the more experienced team that has a couple more games under their belt so far in the playoffs, coming off a recent back and forth marathon to win the series in game 6 on home ice. So that's the thing really coming in. And you have a Philadelphia team that's young. Trevor Zegras has been unbelievable. They have a lot of these young guys. Tippett, who's been incredible for the Flyers. They got a really good loaded amount of young defensemen. They even have a veteran guy like Rasmus Ristolainen, who spent many years with Buffalo, never made the playoffs. The first time he's in the playoffs is with the Flyers. And think about this, Jason. If the Flyers win and the Sabres win, we could have a Flyers-Sabres Eastern Conference Final, which I don't think anyone would have thought would happen in the 21st century period, but it could happen.
The most disgusting finals ever.
It would be, but it would actually be a fun series to watch. I would enjoy watching a Flyers-Sabres Eastern Conference Final.
I mean, really look, the one thing is, as a fan, unless it's your team, you want to see different things, and it would be unique, and it would be something fun to watch.
Yes, it would. Absolutely. And look, it's something where I like Philadelphia. I like Carolina coming into the series too. I'm not going to say that Philadelphia is going to win it outright, but honestly, I'm going to go with the Flyers here in this series. I'm going with the underdog. I'm going with the underdog.
Shocked on that.
Look, if it happens, awesome. If it doesn't happen, then whatever, I'll eat crow. That's fine. But the thing is that we look at the history of Carolina in situations like this, waiting a while to play their next series. Philadelphia, the history they've made, the fact that they were 9 points out of a playoff spot with a month to go and they got into the playoffs and beat Pittsburgh the way they did, let alone they finished third in the Metropolitan Division when they were 9 points back of a playoff spot with a month and change left in the regular season. This Flyers team has been remarkable. It's been an incredible run, and Rick Tocchet has been the perfect guy to coach this exact Flyers team this year.
100%.
So they look good. They look great. You know what? If the Flyers make a run here, I would like to see the Flyers do something here. That'd be cool to see for them. And, it'd be cool to see a team like that be able to get back in the, legit postseason conversation of being a contender or making a run to a final or maybe making a run to a championship, what have you. So, I mean, I'm not saying it's exactly like the 2010 Philadelphia Flyers, but it kind of is in a way so far.
Yeah. No, I would agree with that. And, the one thing I want to say, and obviously, look, the Ducks are in the second round. They just beat the Oilers. But how incredibly stupid. They gave up on Zegras way too fast, man.
They did.
Zegras looks incredible this year.
I mean, you can say that, but at the same time, the way they've developed their young guys like a Leo Carlson,
obviously,
it makes up for it.
No, 100%. It's a shocker to me. I just,
I agree with you.
And honestly, even after the first couple of years of Zegras, I feel like everybody was just like, he's already just a bust and not a good player. The one thing that was talked about with Zegras, he was only big because of the Michigan, and and you know what? Briefly, he was. He briefly was, but they did give up on him, and then obviously look at him now, and you know what? They gave up on. I'm gonna hold to the fact that they gave up on him too fast. It is one that looks like it paid off for both teams.
Exactly. Yeah. It's worked for both teams. Anaheim's in the second round for a reason. The Flyers are in the second round for a reason. So you look at it's a trade-off that works out in both circumstances. Like how I said before, except for this year with Dallas, obviously, but you look at the way that it's worked with Dallas to get Rantanen, Stankoven goes to Carolina in that trade. Obviously, Dallas is not playing no more this year, but it has worked out for both teams respectively in very good ways. Because last year, Dallas and Carolina both made the conference finals.
Yep.
And that trade happened in March of that year.
So that's a good point.
Yeah, so it's something where these trades sometimes work out for both sides, or one team just robs the other, and the other team gets completely blasted and just taken out to the back of the shed and being the crap out of. So, that's how it works with some of these trades. So it's something where I think at the end of the day, we're going to see a heck of a series between Philadelphia and Carolina.
Like the Mavericks with Luka Doncic.
I mean, look, that is
the worst sports trade in the history of sports.
That is a separate conversation and a separate category that will never be removed. That is the worst trade ever. I agree with you 1,000%. I mean, I'm still boggled by that. And the fact that they kept the man, Nico Harrison, the man who traded him, they kept him for a while, and they sacked him the next season. Yeah. I mean, I'm glad they sacked him for it eventually, but I mean, no, it's still something that Dallas fans for basketball, for the Mavericks, they'll never get over. But look, at the end of the day with this Flyers-Hurricane series, it starts tonight. Second round begins tonight. Should be fun. Should be a cool series. It's going to be intense. It's going to be physical. But I'm going to say this. Flyers in 7.
Very possible. And if you're the Flyers, you got to come out with that gritty, hard-hitting play immediately.
Yep.
That Hurricanes arena, it is going to be electric.
And that's the thing.
They are going to come out hot and heavy, throwing heads. And honestly, if you're the Flyers, you got to do it right back. Do not let them get comfortable throwing these hits against you. But no, I would not be surprised if this is the upset we see in the playoffs.
Absolutely.
One more topic I want to go into. Obviously, a team that is waiting their matchup, the Sabres. If you were the Sabres, for the sake of matchups, would you prefer to play the Lightning or would you prefer to play the Canadiens in that scenario?
That's a good question.
Who do you think they match up better against?
I mean, you can say either way that Buffalo's getting a challenge. Yeah. Tampa Bay's experienced, obviously. Montreal's an up-and-coming team. But you mentioned earlier the injury to Victor Hedman and how he's been kind of up and down health-wise this season. if that's a lingering problem, if they get past Montreal and that's a lingering problem against the Sabres,
Huge loss.
that's
It's
a
a huge loss.
benefit
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
Sabres. That's a benefit for the Sabres. But the thing is, for Montreal, they've got Caulfield, they've got Suzuki, they've got a lot of these young key talent players. Their goalie has really been climbing up the ranks.
100%.
And honestly, I mean, yeah, you can say it'd be better to play a goalie like that compared to playing Andrei Vasilevsky, obviously. But if you're the Sabres, knowing that Tampa's defense has kind of been knowing that the offense for the Lightning has kind of been knowing that the Lightning are just trying to survive this series, trying to win their first series since 2022 in the playoffs, whether Vasilevsky's there or not, he makes a difference, obviously. Don't get me wrong, but he's not the difference.
No, not at all.
You can still win games against Vasilevsky in a 2-1, 3-2, 1-0 fashion. That's what Montreal's been doing in the series.
100%. Just squeak one by him. And you know what? The one thing about Vasilevsky, the team, people got to realize, since his back surgery, he has not been the same goalie.
Yes, that's true. So, honestly, if I'm the Buffalo Sabres, knowing that they're coming off the historic series win against Boston, first playoff win in 19 years, knowing that they're in the playoffs for the first time since 2011, knowing that they are an up-and-coming team that won the Atlantic Division, that's one of the favorites, period, left in the entire tournament. Probably the favorite, I would say, in the East. Yes, Carolina might have the higher standings and ranks and whatever, but I think Buffalo is more of a favorite than Carolina, if I'm going to be honest with you here.
Yeah, you know what? And, here's the thing. If you're Buffalo, I actually think you rather play Tampa because I think Montreal is hungrier and younger and almost more dangerous than Tampa. Tampa's gotten their 2 cups. They got to the finals again after that. Not saying they don't want to win it again, but I feel like that hunger since has kind of vanished. And they're not getting younger. They're really not.
No, they're not.
So that's becoming a problem. You already see it. Kucherov's been healthy, but Braden Point's starting to become injury prone. Hedman's out of the lineup a lot. A lot of their guys are starting to deal with health issues. And, so I really do think Montreal is more dangerous. And you know what? I want to give you my bold prediction here, Alex, and this is kind of as a fan, but also knowing how the President's Trophy case goes. I think we get the Stanley Cup of Eichel against his old team. Vegas, Buffalo.
That would be amazing. That would be a heck of a final. I mean, honestly, if you see Vegas and Buffalo duke it out for the Stanley Cup, that'd be something. But to answer your original question, the way that I was leaning towards, the way I was building my case, I'm building my case that Buffalo is better off playing Tampa than playing Montreal.
Yes.
That is what I believe, and I agree with you on that. And yeah, it's something where if they play the Lightning, I think they'll have a more easier time, not completely easy, but they'll be better off playing Tampa than playing Montreal. A Montreal-Buffalo series would be so intense between these young stars.
100%.
Think about it. Thompson versus Caulfield, right there is a heck of a matchup.
Yeah. I will actually go as far as to say, by the way, sorry to cut you off, but if Montreal wins that series, and it's a Buffalo Montreal series, I'm telling you, the winner of that series will be the team that represents the East.
I agree with you. Yep. If it's a Buffalo-Montreal series, whoever wins that series goes to the finals. I don't think they win the finals. Depends who they play on the Western side, obviously. But I don't think you can't think that. Absolutely.
No.
I mean, I think it's something where Buffalo and Montreal, whoever wins that hypothetical matchup, I think goes to the Stanley Cup final. I agree 1,000%. But no, again, it's something where we'll see what happens with Montreal and Tampa Bay. But if the Sabres want to play a team that they think they can do better against, they want Tampa Bay. And plus, let's not forget, Corey Perry now plays for the Lightning.
Wait, so that just means the Lightning are going to get to the Cup somehow and lose? Not
necessarily. What it could mean is that Corey Perry could bring the curse to the second round and lose in the second round again.
Corey Perry's going to keep going until he's 50 years old, continuing to curse teams.
I mean, it's insane. I mean, the man won the Stanley Cup with the Anaheim Ducks in 2007. Yeah. He was 22 years old when he won the Stanley Cup.
He's what, 40 now? Is he 40?
He's 40 now, and he's been to 5 of the last 6 Stanley Cup finals. with Dallas, with Montreal, with Tampa, with Edmonton. He's lost all the finals. Twice, 2 straight years with the Oilers.
Yeah, it's actually insane to think about.
It is insane.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Corey Perry alone is why I don't think the Lightning have a chance. But
maybe he brings the curse to the first round because again, Tampa hasn't won a first round series since Perry lost with them in 2022. So maybe you know they're done by Sunday night, and it is Buffalo Montreal.
It's definitely possible, but yeah, I mean, no matter what, the playoffs have been amazing as always. You know, I don't think there's been a year where I've outright been like, I was disappointed in the NHL playoffs. They are, it is always incredible. You know, there's some great matchups. I do want to see that upset, and I'm hoping it comes from the Flyers over the Hurricanes because you know what? I don't like the Flyers, but I also do not like the Hurricanes. They're a fun team to kind of watch collapse towards the end.
Honestly, I want to see that Buffalo Philadelphia Eastern Conference final. I really want to see that Eastern Conference final. That would be fun. And look, if it's Montreal Philadelphia, that'd be a cool one too.
Yeah.
But I think a Buffalo Philly Eastern Conference final would be really cool to see.
Inject obviously, a little youth into the conference finals. Yeah.
It puts some youth in the conference finals, but honestly, it represents the East Coast in a way that really isn't represented, you know? Because obviously, us being from Long Island, you know, New York City's represented well, Boston's represented well, Philadelphia's represented well. Not really for hockey, but represented in other sports well. If you have the Buffalo Sabres and the Philadelphia Flyers, two of the more unlikely East Coast hockey teams to play for a trip to the Stanley Cup final, that would be so fun to watch.
100%. And you know what? I think there's a very real chance that it does happen. And you know, the whole, especially, the Pittsburgh area, especially the Pittsburgh Philly area could really use it. It's a big time for especially Philly. You got a game 7 for the Sixers.
Right.
Imagine if the Flyers made it past game 1 and somehow after being down 3-1, the Sixers beat the Celtics. The Philadelphia might explode.
It has before in many different ways.
Yes.
All I know is that when they and I'll tell you this much: if the Flyers and Sixers go on to win the Stanley Cup and the NBA title, Philadelphia is not going to exist anymore.
Yeah, I would stay far away from Philly if that happens.
They might have to have the trophy trophy parades in the Delaware River.
Yeah, all I know is if I was a fan, I would not go to those parades.
And what's kind of ironic is that this year's the 250th birthday of America, and the country was founded in Philadelphia. So hopefully a month before we celebrate 250, if that were to happen, the Flyers and Sixers win their championships, can we at least have the city alive until July 4th?
Yes, that would be a nice request. Yeah.
And then July 5th, if it burns up, then, at least we got the 250.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but no, it's a crazy time for Philly, and to be honest, the Pittsburgh Philly area really needs it because, I think for football especially, I think the Eagles are gonna start to decline soon. I really do. There's rumors AJ Brown might be on his way out. Jalen Hurts has started to show some weaknesses. Obviously, the Phillies are in a really weird spot. Obviously, best way to put this, and I hate saying this on air, but there's genuinely no other way to put it in this situation. Aaron Rodgers has the Steelers by the balls right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, he does.
They have no idea what is happening, and eventually teams just got to stop with him. They really do because
I know.
They couldn't. I don't even think they drafted a quarterback. A good quarterback at least because they don't know what's happening with the guy. Philly and Pittsburgh need this.
The thing is that I think you're right. You say all that about Philadelphia and Pittsburgh sports and all of it, and the Phillies are the Phillies, but it's not the Mets, baby.
No, the Mets. Yeah, the Mets are just. let's not go into that for the sake of me not getting depressed on here. It's gonna be too sad of a topic. But no, that's it, dude. The Philly and this area for these sports for the Philadelphia and the Pittsburgh area have really died down for a while. They really have
Yeah.
not felt like they used to be. And it is huge for the area to finally get something going in some life. So hopefully for them, both teams they advance to the next round. And then the Sixers go home against the Knicks, but we'll get. But hopefully for the Flyers, they knock out the Hurricanes, and then, dude, if for some reason the Wild win that series and the Flyers beat the Hurricanes, I don't really have a prediction anymore for who wins the cup if those two teams go. I really don't. My predictions will be just out the window if those two teams get eliminated. And
Right.
I hope it happens because it would make it so fun and so interesting. Imagine you have Final Four, Vegas Wild, Sabres, Flyers.
Oh, I mean, it'd be great. And honestly, if the Wild can get to the conference finals, that'd be the first time ever in franchise history they've been there. And at the same time, if they can do it against a Vegas team who beat them in the first round of the playoffs last year, that'd be a fun series and a very intense one too.
Oh, 100%. And you know what? The Wild, if it's not Vegas, the Wild are a team who could really use that, whether it's at least a conference finals appearance. I mean,
absolutely.
After the moves you made, if you don't get to at least the conference finals, I know you just beat the Dallas team, but if you don't get to at least the conference finals, I do feel like it's a slight letdown.
It's a slight letdown, but at the same time, the fact that you won the series to begin with is a win for the season itself. I agree with you. It is a slight letdown. But if they play Colorado hard and tough and they lose in 6-7 games,
you could forgive it. Yeah,
you can still walk away satisfied.
Yeah, no, you don't sit there like like you would have with the round one loss. Like we need to make changes. If it was a round one loss, that's a different scenario. But I would honestly say now that Quinn Hughes is that you got Quinn Hughes, Boldy, Kaprizov, McKinnon, McCaw, Natchez. This might have to be, and I get it. We've had the Oilers against McDavid and Draisaitl against Eichel and Stone before, and we've had we've had the Cup Finals with Nathan McKinnon against Kucherov, but this might be the most star-studded playoff series I've ever seen.
I mean, it is star-studded for sure. It's maybe the best or you've ever seen, probably. I mean, you have the best defensemen, the top two defensemen in the entire National Hockey League who are facing off against each other in the second round.
Yeah, and
that by itself. Yeah, and then you have two players in McKinnon and Kaprizov, who are not just the top 5 best players, period, offensively in the National Hockey League. I would even make a case they're both in the top 5 period right now overall. And I would also point out that these are two guys who are easily, when Kaprizov is healthy, he was healthy this year. Last year he wasn't, unfortunately. But if Kaprizov was healthy last year, he and McKinnon both would have been in the running for the Hart Trophy.
Oh, 100%. And you know what? Another thing that is so crazy is these teams are so stacked that they're good enough that, in my opinion, you got 1A and 1B guys. You got, obviously, your 1A guys with Kaprizov and McKinnon. And then 1B guys, you got Natchez and Boldy. I mean, it's incredible. And then, obviously, you got other good star players on, the Wild, too. But, then you add in guys for the Avalanche. They brought back Nazem Kadri. I mean, these teams are stacked. I mean, these might be the most built rosters, probably of the last decade.
Absolutely.
And it's going to be a fun matchup. Like I said, I think the Vegas Ducks is going to be a fun matchup. It's going to be a fast-paced matchup, a little more physicality than the Vegas Mammoth series. We got the Game 7 with the Lightning and Montreal Sabres awaiting them, while these two teams just rock each other and get a little more physical as the Sabres just sit there in beautiful Buffalo, New York. Yeah, yeah, I wasn't trying to totally trash Buffalo there, but
Okay.
they're waiting, and then the big nightmare for the Hurricanes again of having to wait again. The Hurricanes. While it's nice to finish the series early, I gotta wonder how they feel every year finishing a series so quick, because it's not good. To be honest, it has not panned out once for them having to
No.
wait. So
Yeah.
so that has to be a huge, huge concern, and honestly, a topic of conversation there. Because as a if I was a fan, that would worry me. So hopefully for them that doesn't become a problem again. But before we wrap this up, Alex, I'm just curious if you have any more thoughts for any of the matchups going through.
No, I mean, I think we summed it up pretty clearly, and it's always the Stanley Cup playoffs being the Stanley Cup playoffs. They always deliver. It's always intense. It's always fun. It's always exciting. It creates a whole range of emotions for fans and for players and for coaches and for everybody involved. That's the beauty of this tournament. And like I said to begin our segment today, this is the best playoff tournament all time
100%.
ever. The best of all of them. The best in pro sports, the best in sports, period. Nothing beats the Stanley Cup
100%.
playoffs. Nothing in sports ever will.
No, and you look at the I completely agree. And you look at these players, because we could go into this because we have a couple minutes. There are no sports where you got guys playing with Victor Hedman a couple years ago played with a broken foot. You've had, Mark Stone broke his hand in the first period of the game that Vegas won the Stanley Cup in, and he scored a hat trick. What these hockey players go through, and they continue to play in battle in the playoffs, is incredible. There's nothing like it. You look at baseball and somebody gets a blister and they're out for a couple games, or
you fall into a hole, or you have.
It sounds like you're just targeting the Mets. Stop! It sounds like you're just targeting the Mets.
Yes, I am. Some guy falls in a hole. Some guy has food poisoning from bad cooked chicken. Some guy ends up falling off his horse. I mean, come on, baby, meet the Mets. Why not?
Yeah, and then you got and then you got basketball, and this is no knock, and I'm anybody watching this, we're not knocking those sports, but the NHL is a completely different animal. You got Kevin Durant, for example, for the Houston Rockets. His team is battling and to keep their season alive, and the guy missed, I think, the last 3 games. After first off, he put up an absolute stinker of a performance, and then all of a sudden he's out for 3 games. Not there to help his team, and to be totally honest, his team played better without him, which is funny.
Huh.
But again,
Right.
These guys and the NHL players play through whatever they have to play through.
And not just the pro players in the National Hockey League. I mean, hockey players, period, do this, Jameson. And an example I'll give you, a guy who I know who helped Denver University win their 3rd national championship in 5 years. He played with a hand and ankle injury. He was their best player. He was a finalist for the Hobie Baker Award, which is given to the college hockey MVP. He was a hat trick top 3 finalist, and he played through the NCAA tournament and the national championship game and all of it with a hand and a foot injury, and he was a big reason why they won. Yeah. So hockey players are just a different breed.
100%. And, the one thing we could also talk about, because it just came out earlier, we were talking about the McDavid injury. In Game 2, by the way, it was just talked about that Knobloch actually came out and said that in Game 2, he broke his ankle, by the way, McDavid, and he played the rest of the series. and a lot of people are not hockey fans, and that's okay. You're allowed to like what sport you like, but even for the non-hockey fans, I hope you guys at least respect what these players do because it is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Me or you, if we broke our foot, we'd be down and out for
Are you kidding
weeks.
me?
Um,
I'd be complaining about it for the whole month, but
yeah.
yeah.
So, if I took a hit into the boards,
You would
yeah, literally, so nah, there's nothing but huge freaking respect for what these players do, putting their bodies on the line and continuing to play through all of these injuries because it is incredible and like I said, nothing but respect. But I don't know, is there anything else you do have to close this out or?
Well, sir, that's about it. Once again, always great being here with you on these segments, and yeah, it's the best time of the year, especially sports wise, and looking forward to see how all of this plays out as these next couple weeks carry on.
100%. And guys, before we do wrap this up, if you guys want us to, like after, the second round's over, especially if the Wild and Vegas both manage to advance, if you guys want something else, put it in the comments. We'll try to figure something out. That schedule's a bit very busy, and he's also moving in about a month, so stuff's gonna get hectic. But if it fits our schedule, we will certainly try for you guys. But yeah, otherwise, I hope everyone enjoyed this. Thank you guys so much for watching our playoff talk video. There's no doubt about it. The NHL playoffs are the most electric time of year in sports. Expect the unexpected, crazy matchups, hard-hitting matchups, some fun, fast-paced matchups. You love to see the possibility of upsets. So far, going into round two, and still one game seven left in round one, it has been a lot of fun. So I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys are new, drop a sub. If you liked the video, leave a like. Comment below your guys' predictions as well. I'd love to hear who you guys have going to the Cup from the West and the East and who you guys think is going to win. But I appreciate you guys. I will see you guys next time. Peace out.